guys, Andy Work back. Now, finally circumstances have allowed me to do some work here. So, that's screwed in. I put 2 screws there and I put lumps of epoxy putty underneath to make sure it had something to drill in because there was a little less material. The piece of epoxy putty I had left, I left it on my desktop, so hard as a rock. So I know that's hard as a rock and that's fine in there. Now, I've made a real dog's breakfast of this thing, but I'm going to attempt to salvage it. So that bit slides in like that. And it's got a little tab on the bottom there that goes behind that in there. Now the reason I put the tape there is just to stop any arrow light getting down on this part. So that goes like that, and then I've got these little strips with holes I drilled in them that will go in there, 2 per side. The holes are so the glue gets in, spreads around and has a nice anchor. So I'm going to glue that area and tape it up. Then tomorrow, when that's dry, this is my round carrier. I've got a round here somewhere, looks like a little rocket. And I thought I'd have to do all in one go, but I realised I can just put it in like that, drop it down, and then with some jiggery pokery and probably some tape, hold it up there, put a couple of screws in either side, then fill those screw holes to hide them, and I've got what looks like a full magazine. It's just a little bit more detail just to make it a bit more fun. So first thing is to mix up some glue that in. I've got my tape ready, I've got my gloves on, and don't worry, I'm not 2x2 hands of glue, and I'm going to glue that and let it dry using a little pot rivet here. Would have been better to use a used one, but never mind. So this has got a groove down the side, so just to see where it goes, yeah. So it's virtually corner on corner that's gluing, which is going to be a real pain, but I'll put some araldite in there, and then at the same time I've actually got a split in the magazine wall here which I'm going to put some glue in, so when that goes together it'll just automatically glue up. Okay, so trying not to get glue anywhere else other than where I need it, and failing miserably. So that little tab goes in there. So what I've got to do now is get one of my little pieces of plastic, which I almost lost, cover it in glue, which I'm running out of, and slide it in there like that. Now the reason I've got 2 pieces for either side is because it's too thin. So I've got to slide it down and then get some more glue on another piece and slide it on top. All one-handed. Isn't this fun? I'm almost out of glue too. So what I'm going to do is just get a quick bit of masking tape, and getting masking tape off a roll with gloves on is murder, and tape it this edge down. There we go, in place, hunky dory, happy happy joy joy. Now I've got to find my araldite, mix up some more glue because I didn't mix enough. Now I have to tape this up so it won't move. Oh, well, I remember the last week's movie I burnt myself towards the end of the movie, and just like to say thank you to people who commented on that, and I'm fine. In fact, there was barely a mark left after I got it. It was just very painful. It wasn't painful at the moment it happened, but within a few seconds it really started to get sore. That's why I stopped so abruptly. That's it as it is. I'm not going to do anything else to it because I'm going to let the araldite dry and then... Right, of course, the camera died during the gluing process, and sorry about the handheld, but I thought I'd just point out a few things. So you can see a little bit of white plastic in there, and I've filled this area with as much araldite as I can get into it. Same on the other side. Put a clamp on, tape, so that's just going to sit there now. I'm going to give it a full day to dry, even though I'm using 5 minutes. And then this, actually, I've designed this so this just sort of slots in like that and tips forward, and then I've got a little missile I've printed that sits in there, and we've got a recess in the front of the mag that you can sit there, so it'll be painted up and look cute, just more detail. Morning, back again now. Okay, there's my magazine. Nice strong glue. Catch still works good. So what I've got here is my little follower with the missile that I printed. Now, as you can see, it's a bit long. I'm going to have to chop that off. I'm going to shorten it and print it again. So I've got to chop that off so I can test fit it to this. So, time for the Dremel. And if you don't happen to know about this Dremel fitting, you should get it. Really cool. Just, right. So you pull out and pull off the disc, and I'm so glad I found one more disc. Pull down, put on and turn. Quick, easy. Okay, that's, most of it's gone below the surface of that face, so get rid of that. Now put it in, see if it works. It actually jams there, which is pretty good, so that makes it a lot easier for me. Now, what I'm going to do is pull it up. What I have to do is position it so it looks like it can come out there, even though it's only a visual thing, and make sure the top part of the missile is below the top part of the magazine, because there's very little clearance in it when it's in the actual blaster. Just been working on the magazine and the slide. I've had to glue a couple of pieces of plastic to the side to make that wider so it fits a bit better. And okay, I don't believe I'm saying this, I'm actually happy I'm using 5mm araldite so I can get this done. So, take that off. Yeah, done. Good. So, that goes in there. And hopefully we'll pivot up. Yeah, it's a nice tight fit now, so I'll make that fit. I'll do a bit of sanding, get it thin enough. Anyway. Now what might be happening is the rocket might be getting caught on the front of the magazine. No, it's not. It's the plastic I've glued on. It's a bit too thick, so I'm going to have to thin it down a bit by sanding. There we go. Nice, comfy fit. Nice and tight, in fact. So just drop that in there. So just needs to go down just a tad. So the back of the missile is there. And see if I can bring it up at the front a bit. Okay. Alright. That will do. So what I'll do, I'll mix myself up some araldite, dab it on these close pieces here, and wrap some tape around it, hold it in place. And then once that's dry, I'm going to put a couple of screws in here and in here, straight through that little thing. So I've got some of these really tiny little screws here, and the head actually fits into that slot. So I'll be able to put a screw straight through there, physical mounting, and a bit more strength. So before I pull it apart, I'm going to get a pencil or a pen of some kind and mark where it goes. So as long as I can see a little bit of grey under those black marks, I know I'm good. Before we go on to that, one thing, my cool little idea about using magnets to hold the muzzle on works to an extent, in that if you hold the blaster horizontally or upright, it's pretty good, but not if you tip it down. So I've just put a screw in the center, had to build up some epoxy putty there, and of course with my typical daring and skill, the screw is not quite centered, but it will hold it in. So just got to tighten it just the right amount. There we go. So there you go, done. So that's ready to be glued on. The body is ready. I've reamed out those holes a bit more so the socket can get in there and I can do up the nuts. So I can just glue that on and move on. Thank goodness. It's taken a long time to get here. Okay, we're finally at the gluing of the front on. Yay! So I've just test fit my spacer and my nut. And so what I'm going to do in a bout of extreme cleverness is use the spacer and the nut on this to clamp this together to glue it. I know, I don't know where it came from either. So pull that apart, mix up some glue, slather it around here, keeping away from these two holes where the threaded rods go, and whack it together. And also what I did, I put a little bit of paint on here and pressed it on, and it marked here, so I know if I put a little bit of glue on this bit I'll get another join there, so make it a bit stronger. Put a bit down here and we're off. So I'll just leave the camera running for that and just edit this out. I know I said I'm not a 2x2 hands of blue, but I have got one of those little things that makes people's ears bleed and eyes turn red and they choke to death. It's been very useful. Where's my glue? There's my glue. And my dogs have just heard a leaf fall on the ground. She's a very good guard dog, but God, she's noisy. Which I suppose is the idea. Okay, just putting some glue on that. Quickly before this goes off, putting some on that. Trying to keep my head out of shot. I never really realised how bald I was until I saw the top of my head. My wife is far too kind to me. Okay, there we go. Now I've got glue all over that glove, so I'm going to get rid of it. Right, here we go. And we have a union. Yay! Put on the... Oh, sorry if this is so close. I've adjusted the camera height, so it's a bit... so I don't have to keep sort of repeating myself and doing things, because you're not getting the full image. Now I'll just put that nut on. Now, one thing is that epoxy stops the socket going all the way in, but I can get it on enough to actually tighten up, and I can actually feel it trying to turn the rear of the sprocket housing. Now, that is not in the right place. What I should have done and remembered to do is the spacer. I want the gap on the spacer at the top, just so I've got, in fact I want it there, just so I've got it pushing down on all four sides. Now from memory I've got to put it about there, because as I tighten the knot down it tends to spin it. And unfortunately I don't have three hands, so I've got to work out other ways of doing things. Yes, it appears to be touching all the way around. Just give it another twist. And we've got some glue coming out, which means it's a nice, tight, squeezy fit. So, I've got araldite all over the table. So I will get some acetone and clean that up. So that's it. Bloody araldite on the blaster. There was araldite on the table and I've got it on the blaster right there. So I was going to reach for my acetone, but that could damage the plastic. So what I've got here is some isopropyl alcohol. And it seems to have got it off. But just so we don't have any disasters and it slowly melts it while I'm not here, I'm just wiping it off with a wet rag. In fact, it cleaned it up really nicely. Now, you may have noticed one of my problems here is I've got recesses for the Picatinny rails on the front. I forgot to put one in the top because it has a scope that goes on top. Now I've printed a Picatinny rail for it, and it fits like so, but I forgot to put a recess. So I'm just going to have to screw it on. Alright guys, now moving on. I glued this on yesterday, the day before. And I'm going to fill this just like I filled the other end, but this time I've masked it simply because I don't want to get putty everywhere like on this one. And it's not just, oh, I made a mistake here, I'll do something better here. I also want to do an experiment. So once I've sanded and painted this, see the surface, how it turns out, see how much of the detail it takes out. I mean, once, I'm honestly thinking of rubbing the whole body with Tamiya putty just to fill up the gaps, the lines, but that could be quite time consuming and more than likely quite expensive. So I'm going to see how this goes first. It's just a case of, even while I'm building this, I'm testing things and learning things, and you know, finding ways to do things. Whether they're better or not, I don't know. Whether they're more efficient, but this one seems like a no-brainer, just so I don't get putty everywhere. I didn't do it there because it's a very difficult surface, but this is just flat, so this works just as well. This is just a little clay working tool made out of plastic. Just get them from any clay working shop, art centre, that sort of thing. They're quite useful. I use them all the time. Okay, time for experimenting. We'll pull a bit of the tape off now and see what happens. That all in one go. Yep, that's not too bad. That'll be a case of sanding down and refilling, but I've got a little bit of putty left here. I'll just get it in that gap there. Okay, so that's not too bad. Alright, a little bit of sanding, but you know how much I love sanding. Right guys, now another issue I'm dealing with is when this goes in and is attached with the nut up there, it's only fixed at one point, so there is the possibility this could move around, and subsequently also the butt on it can spin around, but I think I've got that covered. So what I'm going to do is, just to stop this moving around, pretty simple fix. I'm just going to grind myself a little flat spot here and put a screw, a little, even something just like that, that's a metal tapper, straight in there right next to the plastic, and then I'll grind out a corresponding notch in the bottom here, because I've got plenty of plastic in there. I've got nearly a centimetre. So that's just to stop it spinning around. That's all I want it to do. It's like just a lock nut on this end. So that's going to be pretty straightforward and easy. So first I've got to mark my centre, which is just about there. It really doesn't matter where this goes, but anyway, now allowing for the width of the head, right, okay, so now just a quick little grind. All that does just gives me a flat spot to drill, and I've lost the screw now. Oh, I am so good at this sort of thing, and bang into the camera. Brilliant, genius. I've just put a little screw in there, self-tapper, and I've put a daub of red paint in the front, pushed it in, and I've got a little red mark. So what I'm going to do now, I'm not going to drill out a hole, I'm going to get something metallic. Now what I'm doing is just pushing that in again, making sure the screws are virtually level, and then I'm just going to put in a reference mark on both pieces of plastic. Right, okay, so now I've got to align those two marks to get the butt right. Okay, I'll try my braid raw because that's got a wooden handle, and I can just push that into the plastic a short way, and I'll make the plastic around it softer. Already got some plastic on it, obviously. There we go. That's made everything soft. We've got to work quick. Yep, that went in a little way. Yeah, it's made a tiny little indentation there, so what we're going to do is make a bigger indentation. And we're going to do this the clever way so we don't have to worry about turning gas off. Sorry I'm working off camera, but I've got to keep the burner out of the way. Now, just got to get this aligned. There, yep, you can see it there. It's not aligned, it's aligned. And there's enough screw up there to hold it in place, so that's good. I'm pretty happy with that. Done. One of the easier things that I've got through today. Now, I have done a few things. You haven't actually filmed because I've been so sidetracked with them. Put some putty on this thing. It needs a lot of cleanup. This is a Frankenstein. It's really, really rough, but it's a huge print, so I don't want to do it again if I can avoid it. I'll probably put some epoxy putty down there, either side, sand it down, give it a good paint job. Right, the next thing to do is the trigger. And I've been working on this earlier, and what I've done, I've just glued some washers to either side of that, simply because it's a bit loose in the fitting. So, can you see this? Yes, you can. So that goes in there like that. And what I've got, I found this in a box of junk. It was actually a screwdriver, but it was an old screwdriver. The handle was just like a little lump of plastic about that big, you know, so cut it off, and it's a really, bumping the cameraman again, it's a really good fit. So what I'm going to do is take that out first and put in the spring for the trigger, and I've got two springs in here, one inside the other, just so it's got a good bit of resistance. Put that in there and put that through there and try and get it to find the hole, and that's where my braid drawer comes in. It's nice and cool now, so I can stick it through this side. It's got through that hole, so I can use it to get this other one. There we go, pushing one in and the other one comes out. Right guys, oh boy, this has been something of a nightmare. Now I've got this, my locking pin in there, right there, so put it in, not quite locked, and it turns, locks in. Secondly, got a working trigger. Now that's got a spring behind it, it's got a couple of washers inside to make it nice and tight, and the pin, as you can see, it's a bit shiny. It's a bit of old screwdriver I found, and all I need to do is put a drop of super glue either end, but it's a pretty good friction fit, and the tension of that spring is not going to go anywhere. Awful lot done today, which I'm pretty happy with. That's in. I could probably work out how to put that in too, because that should be relatively easy. I unfortunately didn't put a corresponding hole there. I've got a hole here, but I've got to do something, so I'm going to work on that next. And then it's just a case of a few things. The what do you call it, the stock latch split, because of the way I printed it. So I printed a different one, vertical layers, and what I'm going to do, I hope, if this works, is, so that drops in there like so, and what I did with the holes in the side of it, I made it a little bit bigger to fit a couple of these. And I'll find two of the right size. These are those latches that go right at the front of your in there. So got two of them, and might even be able to salvage the springs and put them in either side of this, like so. So it looks like I'm going to have to open that hole up a bit more. And then I just got spring-loaded clips that allow me to put it in there, because they fit in that hole. I can even open up those holes a bit more. Right guys, sorry for the handhold, but necessary. Now, done a fair bit today, got my butt tube locked in, I've got my trigger in, working, I've attached the Picatinny rails all around. The top one that holds the scope, unfortunately the scope's going to have to be glued into after I've painted it up and everything, so that's an issue, but you know, have to deal with it. Got this little doodad here that goes like that, and what that does is channel the wires that come from this round counter, which is mounted just there, like so on that side. Still got to do finish the front of that and do a screen for the back. What else is there? Oh, got the muzzle in. Got my little pipe here that has to get glued on there, and I've got to find some pipe that runs along here as well. So that's that stuff. Pistol grip needs some work. I'm having some issues with the trigger guard. What else? Magazine is finally finished. It's a dog's breakfast, so don't look at it too closely. It needs a lot of sanding. And I'm even reinforcing the mag catch release with some plastic card just to stop any potential for splitting there. I've also got to attach these little paddle things to each side, and all the Picatinny rails I've printed plugs to go over the screws, like so he said. There you go. How I'm going to get that out, I don't know, but anyway, yeah, and the usual screwing method is just marking where the screws go, using a heated drill bit to push a hole through, and then just screwing straight into the soft plastic, and once it's cool, it's a nice tight fit. So that's it for today. I'm going to go and eat. See you later.